Brooks Koepka just made a decision that's sending shockwaves through every corner of professional golf, and the implications are absolutely massive. After years on LIV Golf, swimming in guaranteed Saudi money and living what was supposed to be the dream, Koepka is back on the PGA Tour. But here's what nobody's talking about. This isn't just one player changing leagues. This is the first domino falling in what could become a complete collapse of LIV Golf's entire credibility. And the way Koepka orchestrated his return, the price he paid, and the message it sends to every other LIV player watching from the sidelines, it's all way more dramatic than anyone expected. What did Koepka actually sacrifice to come back? Why did he call Tiger Woods first? And what does this mean for the future of professional golf's civil war? Let's be brutally honest about something first. When Brooks Koepka left the PGA Tour for LIV Golf after the 2022 US Open, it wasn't just another defection. This was a five-time major champion in his absolute prime walking away from the tour that made him a star and a millionaire. The reported contract was massive, confirmed by Koepka himself as 9 figures, meaning at least $100 million guaranteed paid up front. He was one of LIV's marquee signings, a player they pointed to as proof the league could attract legitimate championship caliber talent. But now, less than 4 years later, Koepka is back on the PGA Tour. And the way it happened tells you everything about how desperate he was to escape LIV and how much power has shifted back toward the established tour. According to reports, Koepka was freed from the final year of his LIV contract, meaning he either negotiated an early exit or LIV let him walk. Either scenario is devastating for the Saudi-backed league's image. If Koepka negotiated out, it proves the contracts aren't as ironclad as everyone thought. If LIV let him go, it suggests they're cutting losses and don't want unhappy players, dragging down the brand. The first person Koepka called after getting his freedom wasn't a manager, an agent, or PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan. It was Tiger Woods. Think about that for a second. Tiger Woods, the man who never contemplated joining LIV and publicly disparaged those who did, saying they turned their back on what allowed them to get to this position. Tiger Woods, who's now a leading voice on the PGA Tour board and partially responsible for creating the pathway that let Koepka return. That phone call says everything about where the real power in golf resides. Koepka explained that he's always had a good relationship with Woods and that Tiger was someone he'd relied on in the past for questions and answers about how to deal with difficult situations. He said it felt like the most comfortable call to make. But that comfort came with a price tag that's absolutely staggering when you break down what Koepka sacrificed to come back. First, a $5 million charity contribution that Koepka has to make, with the specific charity still to be determined with the tour. That's not a fine or a penalty technically, but let's call it what it is, a massive payment to get back in the door. Second, Koepka receives no FedEx Cup bonus money this year, cutting him off from one of the tour's most lucrative revenue streams. Third, and this is the big one, he has no access to equity shares in the PGA Tour for 5 years. The tour has estimated that equity value at $50 million and beyond. Let that sink in. Koepka is walking away from potentially $50 million or more in long-term value just to get back on tour. And there's more. He can't play in the $20 million signature events, the tour's biggest and most prestigious tournaments outside the majors, until he qualifies on his own through performance. So Koepka, a 5-time major champion and former world number 1, has to start from scratch at smaller events and work his way back up the ladder like a rookie trying to prove himself. So why would Brooks Koepka accept these brutal terms? Why would he give up guaranteed LIV money and pay this massive price to return? Koepka cited the need to be closer to family as his main reason for wanting out of LIV. His wife announced in early October that she'd suffered a pregnancy loss at 16 weeks, a devastating personal tragedy that puts everything in perspective. The LIV schedule, despite being lighter than the PGA Tour, still required constant international travel and time away from home. But there's another factor nobody's saying out loud. Koepka, like many LIV players, realized that the league couldn't deliver what it promised. Not in terms of money, LIV paid that guaranteed cash exactly as advertised, but in terms of competition, prestige, and legacy. Playing on LIV meant his world ranking was collapsing because LIV events don't award official world golf ranking points. It meant losing automatic exemptions into major championships, the tournaments that actually define greatness. It meant playing in front of tiny crowds and minimal television audiences. It meant his career accomplishments were being forgotten while he cashed checks. And here's the most damaging part for LIV. Koepka's return isn't being framed as a guy crawling back defeated. It's being celebrated as the PGA Tour getting stronger and more competitive. Tiger Woods himself said earlier this month that having Koepka back is a win for everyone because it makes the tour stronger and raises value for all players. Scottie Scheffler, the world's #1 who shares the same manager as Koepka, supported the decision publicly, saying it's good getting someone back on tour that wants to be back. That phrase, wants to be back, is absolutely devastating for LIV. It implies that Koepka didn't want to be there anymore, that the guaranteed money wasn't enough to keep him satisfied, that something about LIV was fundamentally unsatisfying for an elite competitor. And if Koepka, one of the most mentally tough and results-oriented players in golf, couldn't find fulfillment on LIV despite the massive payday, what does that say about the league's viability? Still to be determined is how golf fans will receive Koepka at tournaments. He admitted he's nervous about the reception, saying maybe I'm a little nervous about that as well, just to see how the fans respond to it. I hope that they're excited. I hope that they're happy that I'm out here. That vulnerability is striking coming from a player known for his confidence and mental toughness. The fact that Koepka is openly worried about fan reaction shows just how uncertain this return feels. When Koepka arrived at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance Open, his first non-major PGA Tour event since March 2022, the reception from fellow players was warm. There were hugs with Billy Horschel and Harris English on the range. He played a practice round on the back nine with rookie Marcelo Rozo. On the 18th tee, Akshay Bhatia and Matti Schmid joined them, neither of them even on the PGA Tour when Koepka left. Nearly half the field in the Wednesday Pro-Am didn't have PGA Tour cards when Koepka departed. Koepka acknowledged the massive changes, saying there's a lot of new faces, but I'm excited to meet those guys and feel like I'm part of the tour. That phrase, feel like I'm part of the tour, is loaded with meaning. It suggests that on LIV, despite the money and the star teammates, Koepka never felt like he was truly part of something bigger than himself. Justin Rose summed up the significance of Koepka's return perfectly last week. We've all benefited from this chaos in one way or another, Rose said. It's been good for tour players in the sense the powers that be pushed a little harder in our direction with equity in the tour and prize funds. But we need a premium product. And this is the first time we've had someone who moves the needle come back our way. That last line is crucial. Someone who moves the needle. Koepka isn't just any player returning. He's a 5-time major champion, a former world #1, a player whose presence makes tournaments more compelling and valuable. And now he's back on the PGA Tour, having paid an enormous price to escape LIV, sending a message to every other LIV player who might be questioning their decision. The implications are massive and terrifying for LIV Golf. If Brooks Koepka, one of their cornerstone signings, was willing to sacrifice tens of millions of dollars in equity and bonus money just to get back on the PGA Tour, what does that say about the league's long-term viability? If a player of Koepka's stature doesn't feel fulfilled despite the guaranteed riches, how many other LIV players are quietly exploring their own exit options? Dustin Johnson, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and others are all watching this closely. They're seeing that the PGA Tour created a pathway back for Koepka, albeit an expensive one. They're seeing that Tiger Woods and Scottie Scheffler publicly supported his return. They're seeing that the golf world isn't punishing Koepka, but celebrating his decision to come back. That creates a template. That opens a door that LIV desperately wanted to keep closed. For the PGA Tour, this is a massive victory that goes beyond just adding one player. It's a statement that the tour is still where champions want to be. It's proof that guaranteed money isn't enough if the competitive environment and legacy don't match. It's validation that the tour's strategy of fighting LIV and protecting its ecosystem was the right approach. Brooks Koepka's return to the PGA Tour isn't just a personal decision. It's a seismic shift in professional golf's civil war. It's the first major crack in LIV's foundation, and it's a signal that the Saudi experiment, despite all its billions, might not be able to compete with tradition, prestige, and the genuine competitive fire that drives the world's best players. The golf world is shocked, and they should be, because Brooks Koepka just changed everything.